Joining me now is Doug Herbert, our international affairs commentator. Doug, let's start by asking you about Europe's struggle to immunise its 450 million citizens. This is a rocky start to the vaccine rollout, isn't it?
It's a rocky and troubled start, and a start that some critics say could have been foreseen, given the fact that the European Union, Annette, was seen as being late on the uptake, that is, in striking deals months ago with the pharmaceutical firms to supply these vaccines. In the case of AstraZeneca, the deal was struck in August. Vaccine, the Pfizer drug being, the first to be approved, the BioNTech Pfizer drug. That was struck in December, but it was, early, you might say, but weeks after countries like the United States and Britain had already secured contracts. So these delays, you might say, in striking the deals are now coming back to haunt the European Union. And we do have supply shortages. The European Union so far has vaccinated, on some estimates, about 2% of its population, of its 450 million citizens. In France, it's even lower, 1.7% of the population. Now, that compares to about 11% in Britain, about 6 or 7% in the United States. Israel, being the world's vaccine trailblazer, has immunized to date about 40% of its population. That gives you a sense of how much the European Union is lagging. And we're hearing every day new headlines. Spain having to disrupt and stop and halt its vaccinations in Madrid. Germany having vaccine shortages that are growing worse. France having to suspend vaccinations that have been scheduled in several regions due to these potential shortages. So it's a real problem for the EU, and so far there's no solution other than trying to scramble for alternative sources to try to get supplies back on track and to try to implement the programs that governments in the 27-nation bloc have already laid out.
Tell us more, Doug, specifically about this AstraZeneca dispute, because you've got both sides blaming the other, don't you?
Yeah, exactly, Annette. It's very public and it's very bitter. Despite the fact that two sides have spoken in recent days, you might say the temperature has cooled a bit. Look, at the crux of the problem is this. The EU back last August signed a deal with AstraZeneca for 300 million doses of coronavirus vaccine with an option to purchase 100 million more. Now, 100 million of those doses were supposed to be delivered, according to the EU, by March. In fact, about 25%, that is a quarter of those expected 100 million, are perhaps now going to be delivered. AstraZeneca blames some, ramping up with production problems at plants in both the Netherlands and in Belgium. But it's also saying, it also had a contract with the UK, its home market, which was quicker to sign deals and secure a contract with AstraZeneca. It says it is not reneging on any agreements. It only said it claims that it only ever promised to make a best effort to supply the EU. Now, the EU is striking back, saying that is a bogus argument, saying that essentially AstraZeneca is reneging on its deal and that it is a moral, societal, and contractual breach of its obligations. So you could see this is going nowhere very fast, but they are trying to work on a solution. The EU is trying to ensure that more of those supplies are delivered. And AstraZeneca, you mentioned that the EU's dispatched an inspection team to the AstraZeneca plant to see if, in fact, those production lines have been slowed down and whether AstraZeneca is telling the truth. They're trying to find a solution, but you could expect more of this to come because this is going to be a tit for tat and a cross-border dispute more and more, especially as new variants rage and more countries become desperate to find vaccines and to get their vaccination programs rolling at a steady pace and on schedule.
Doug Herbert, thank you for that.